This week we are taking on a project that we never thought we would do, as it involves pumping a tremendous amount of water inside the stone house.
Just casually flooded the house.
In order to make this work, we are now under a big time crunch to rip out this small barn and convert it to our new garage. Everything must be removed and stored here, because today we are intentionally flooding our house.
Everything's fine. Ah! So in just a little over one day, we are essentially going to be flooding the inside of the stone house.
Which sounds crazy.
I don't even think that's very dramatic. I've talked to some contractors and they all say it has to be done. I just don't understand how it's safe because it's going to be a lot of water in the house. I'll explain why later, but for now we have to get all of the tools, all of the wood flooring, everything out of the house, and we need someplace to put that.
So we have this tiny little kind of mini barn here that was used to hold hay, and we're going to actually kind of demolish the inside of this and build it out so that we can store our tools here.
It's more or less a lean-to shed. You can see behind me here, it actually leans right up against the stone terraces, and then the previous owner built out, what was that crawling there?
What?
Sorry.
No. You said there were no signs of mice. Were you lying to me?
No, there's definitely no mice. I know there's no mice because we had someone else in here, right here, this little guy,
Oh.
that took care of the mice.
Oh no! Oh no! I need to leave for a minute. Oh my god. I just have to process that for a second.
Where are you going?
I don't know.
We have work to do. All right, crisis averted. Time for demolition.
So we are definitely finding lots of signs of life in here, which is really no surprise. Obviously, this is a nice home for little creatures to live in. So we just found some droppings, and I'm not sure what it was. They're definitely bigger than like a rat, but the nest next to it was really small, so very strange.
So I have a lot of respect for how this place was built, because it was just, they took all of the scraps of everything they found around the property. There's some tin from roofs and logs they cut down and just every little piece of scrap, and they piece it together to make a very functional small little barn space. I feel bad tearing it down, but not fully down. We just need it more usable for us. Doesn't seem terribly load bearing. There we go. Open concept barn.
Are we gonna lay flooring? I want to lay flooring. I'm ready to lay flooring.
So the thought is that at least in this section back here, we'll make flat with new flooring, add some shelves, add some desk. It's a work in progress. Put in a nice window, a brand new door.
We're gonna move into this little barn.
We're gonna move in, sleep here.
It's really funny, but before we actually bought the property, when we were thinking about how we could manage to do this, we didn't really remember what the status of this little barn was. And so we thought maybe we could live in here while we work on the house, but definitely would not have been the right choice for us as a family.
You make us sound crazy.
I think everybody knows we are a bit crazy at this point.
We lived in a van.
Down by the river.
This is 3 times the size of the space we lived in. Yeah, of course you'd have to put insulation and make it watertight. But yes, of course you could.
We could. Oh yeah, I mean the size is no problem. We'd have to kind of rebuild a lot of it because it's very much a shed. But anyway, let's get to laying flooring.
Well, it's by no means pretty or level by any means. It's a very short ceiling height as well, but it's functional, and that's all we need right now. And I'm definitely feeling the pressure of we have to hustle because we need to get our tools in here, get some doors and windows up, and make it secure because, man, we've got like less than 24 hours before everything has to be out of the house. It's square.
Well, that's good news.
Let's make it 102 by 170, we'll say. 173. 102 by 173. So Alexa recently started learning how to code, which I'm pretty excited about. I actually learned how to code a little bit when I was 15 years old, but considering she's 9, she's got a pretty big head start on me thanks to today's sponsor, CodeMonkey. CodeMonkey is a game-based way for kids to learn programming and coding skills. It makes it fun and easy for kids as young as 4 years old to get started with coding through block-based coding, or for older kids through text-based coding. Alexa has loved using CodeMonkey because it feels like a game, yet you're learning valuable life skills. And straight away you might be wondering, why in the world would I want my kid to learn programming? Well, I learned programming when I was very young, and I can honestly say that I have not used coding my entire life since. But what coding taught me was lifelong valuable skills of problem solving, logic, and creative thinking. And it's because of those problem solving skills that we want our kids to learn the basics of coding. I would say learning how to code is very much like learning a foreign language. It both opens up opportunities as well as builds confidence. So if you would like to check out CodeMonkey's award-winning platform, then check out the link in the description and use our coupon code to get 25% off any paid home plan. All right, so admittedly I had to put the camera down for 5 or 6 hours to kind of really hustle and get everything out of the house into our new garage for our appointment tomorrow morning. It is rather messy in here because, let's face it, I just kind of quickly tossed everything in here to make sure it was out of the house. I even managed to install a couple of security cameras. I've got one inside and 2 outside. I'll explain why I put those in later on. It's not a very fun story. But anyways, the point is that we are finished with this and moving on to tomorrow morning of flooding the house. So when I say we're going to flood the house tomorrow, I say that partially joking, but also quite literally, because if you can imagine having 2 garden hoses running at full blast for 10 to 12 hours inside of your house, that's what we're doing tomorrow. And I have been kind of stressing about it for a couple weeks now because it doesn't seem to make sense. I don't understand how it's going to be safe for the old stone walls, but I have talked to the professionals and it must be done. Well, it's a very early start to the day today. We've got the house completely ripped apart. The floorboards are off. I have the fireplace behind me completely covered in plastic. It is going to be a very wet day. That smile you see is simply to mask my nervousness as we pump in a ton of water today. We're going to be pressure washing the entire inside of the house with a 300 bar pressure washer. That is why we have the entire floor of the house ripped up so that all of the water can drain down to the first floor. After that, I don't really know what happens because, as I mentioned yesterday, it's the amount of water of 2 garden hoses running nonstop for the next 10 hours. I guess I don't know what to say because, like, in my head, that means we're gonna have an indoor pool by the end of today. Some of that water will soak into the ground, but I kind of expect today to be kind of bucketing out water as we're doing this. Now, I know that a lot of you are reaching for your keyboards right now saying, don't do it. You're going to compromise the stones. You're going to wash out that clay mortar between the stones and compromise the structural integrity of your house. That is the same thing that I thought when I was first told that we needed to do this process. But since then, I've asked several different stonemasons who have spent their entire life working on homes like this, and when I voiced those concerns, they kind of politely smiled and chuckled and said, how very American of you to be so worrisome. They then spent a very long time explaining to me why it was perfectly safe to do this process, and at the end of those long conversations, I just had to take a deep breath and trust the people who have been doing this their entire lives. Bye, all right, so he's been here all of 20 minutes. I told him to take a break because I have to try this. This is 300 bars of pressure. It's cutting through literal rock, taking off a layer of the rock, which you can see is making that rock nice and clean and dark. I have to give this a try. Well, it's definitely a very messy job. You get peppered with mortar and stone. That 300 bars of pressure is 3 times more pressure than the average pressure washer, allowing it to peel back that first layer of stone, really making the color pop through. Yes, it is a lot of water that's being pumped into the house right now, but I can already tell that we are going to be able to manage it, allow it to drain to a hole in the floor, and then bucket it out, no problem. Just casually flooded the house. Everything's fine. It'll be okay. So right behind me here, you can see that the dry stack walls are doing exactly what they are meant to do. All of that water is weeping out. As a reminder, there is no mortar between the stones. There's nothing but clay and a perfected technique of stacking those stones in a way that holds it all together. So when you pressure wash it, when you induce so much water, it all just weeps out and then will eventually dry out. The entire outside of the house used to be that thick mortar. It didn't have the beautiful exposed stones before. So this house has already been through this exact same process by the same contractor, and now it's time to do the inside. Now we're only going to clean what are going to be the exposed stone walls. All of the exterior walls that we have to have the insulation, we are not cleaning. We're just going to leave them as is because we have to cover them up anyways. But we will have a tremendous amount of exposed stone in the house, which is why we want to take it through this extra step to make sure it looks as good as possible. I think you can also see why we have to put up insulation, because if the water is seeping out that much, imagine what air will do to the house. That is why we are required to, and why we are now happy to, insulate the exterior walls. Do me a favor real quick. Type in the comments how much you appreciate the work that Heather's putting in. Today is Sunday morning, the very same Sunday morning that we're releasing this video. So she is standing by, taking footage as we shoot it, editing it to make sure we stay on time for this week's video. We had originally planned on doing this process earlier, but there were scheduling errors. And that means that we are very last minute on this week's video. So thank you so much, Heather, for your work. Wow, so we just finished up in here, but you can see what a massive difference a couple of hours of work makes. This wall looks completely different. It's been completely transformed. We still have the rest of the house to finish up, but today is Sunday, so we're gonna call it quits. I do have that story about the cameras to share with you guys still, but let me get cleaned up first. So I did promise that I would talk about why we are installing so many security cameras on the property. So I didn't really want to have to talk about this, but we have been having the occasional problem with people coming and borrowing tools without perhaps the intent of returning them. I really don't want to dwell on it too much, but I did reach out to Reolink because we had been using their cameras for I think 7 months now, and I've loved them. When I told them about the problems we were having, they very graciously sent us an obnoxious amount of cameras. So I'm going to be placing a few extra just for additional peace of mind. So to be clear, this is not a paid endorsement at all, but as a thank you to Reolink for donating the cameras, I just wanted to tell you that they're having one of the best sales of the entire year over the next 2 weeks. There will be more information about that in the description. we have been using these cameras for the last 7 months and have really loved them. Well, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. But next week, we have a very special video that Heather's been spending on and off the last month editing and preparing for you guys, which we are very excited to share. So don't forget to come back next week to check that out, and we will see you then.